What's going on, guys? Josh here. Today we got a state like I promised in my last video. Speaking of my last video, thanks for helping that get to as many views as it did. I think it's my most viewed video, Call of Duty video, so thanks for that. I joined this game late. I was down 9-0, and it was a more than an 8-man lobby, so a bunch of people kept joining in. You'll see that I keep checking the scoreboard a lot because I'm trying to figure out and get my bearings in this game. I'm trying to figure out who's who and what's happening, if there's any modders, because the guy was such a low level and he had 9 kills and 1 death, so I was kind of just like lost there. You'll see that there's people trick shotting in this game that I don't kill because they were just trying to trick shot and they weren't even trying to kill me, so I didn't even want to take it as a free kill. It was just a bit of a weird game, and I mean, it's on a state, which is a weird map, and I never really liked this map too much. I always found it was too big, and it's hard to see everyone. The colors really mixed in with people's camos, and not their gun camos. I'm talking about like their skin camos, the skins that kids call it these days in Warzone. But finally, I got it out of the way. You'll see here that I turn on my UAV, and I see a guy that's up here shooting his Spaz 12, and I wasn't really sure what was going on, so I killed him, and then I pull up the scoreboard, and I'm like, is this the guy at the top? But it wasn't, so I guess he was just trying to trick shot there. But yeah, that's that. I mean, in my last video, I had talked about another video that somebody had made about hacking and the history of Call of Duty, and I kind of want to get into that a little bit and talk about my experience with this game and hackers and kind of where it is 15 years later. And you know, the first time I've ever heard of hacking was a thing called a JTAG, and that was before I even had an Xbox, and JTagging was specific to Xboxes, and you know, that's how you would get challenge lobbies and mod lobbies. And I had friends with Xboxes, and they were telling me about this JTAG thing, and I had my PlayStation, my PS3 back then, and according to consolemods.org, a JTAG is a modification that allows you to run unsigned code, mods, game backups, and homebrew. Basically, you can manipulate your console and have it read your own mods, which in turn allowed people to do pretty crazy things like de-rank others and rank themselves up to 10th prestige, level 70, and even the 11th prestige with the no icon, jump out of the map, go invisible, all this crazy stuff. And that was my introduction to that's the first time I've ever heard of hacking. There's a podcast called Darknet Diaries by somebody named Jack Reciter, and he actually has an amazing 2-part series about hacking and Xboxes and JTagging. I'll link that below, and that was it was a great explanation of what those things were. And I mean, I never really did it per se, so I switched over from PlayStation to Xbox after Anonymous again hacked Sony's network back in 2011. And you know, as an addicted I don't know, I was 18. As an addicted 18-year-old, I couldn't go 2 weeks without playing Call of Duty, so I switched over to Xbox 360, and I kind of never looked back since. And I've just always been on Xbox until, I mean, I have a PS5 now, but I barely play it. But, you know, back in the day when people were serious about their montages and creating YouTube backgrounds, they would bypass limitations with keygens on Sony Vegas 8, Sony Vegas 9, 10, 11, whatever you may have it, and they would get Photoshop and all of these other Adobe softwares. And essentially what it was were all these kids that were ages 15 to 19 creating their own businesses and brands, I mean, with these bypassed products like Sony Vegas and Photoshop. And, you know, at a young age, looking back on it, they were kind of just creating their own business, and they were doing their own thing and making do with what we had back in the day. And it's funny because Sony Vegas and editing and all of those things were the reason that I actually got into my career today, where I use editing software and you know, film and whatnot. And I'm forever grateful for this game and for that era. But that video that I had mentioned where Retromeister is the YouTube channel, he goes in and makes a great in-depth video about hacking and what it did to people back then, not only the people that played the game, but the people that were hackers themselves. Whether that would be using a JTAG or using editing software to edit your kill feeds, and we all know who I'm talking about when I say that. But he goes in depth about the people that use those mods and the people that expose them. As we all know, gaming, you know, if you had a good standing portfolio back then, you know, you weren't a hacker, you never really used these things, it could turn into a pretty lucrative career. You know, you see FaZe Optic and all these other professional gamers that are doing really well for themselves because of all of that stuff back then. But I'm gonna link that video below. Retromeister does a great job about showing who's who and what happened back then, and basically the history of hacking on Call of Duty and where those people have ended up now. But in all seriousness, apart from all the hacking and all that, I've been plagued with something for this series. I mean, it's the most first world problem ever, but I've been plagued with tech issues with the Xbox One that I'm using to record these gameplays. I bought an external hard drive that's 256 gigs, and whenever I play these games, you know, I basically, Xbox One only allows you to record for 10 minutes if you don't have an external hard drive. If you do have an external hard drive, it lets you record for up to an hour. And whenever I record these gameplays for that long and I press stop recording, or it just stops recording by itself, sometimes, and it's becoming more prominent now, which sucks, but these gameplays would get corrupted. So for example, I've already had gameplays that I could have completed this series with on Favela, Quarry, Invasion, Rundown. I actually just had a Rundown game today that was corrupted, and it was one of my best free-for-all games ever. I think I went like 30-3, but I have those maps that have been corrupted, and unfortunately now I'm going to have to go back and take my time and kind of, you know, it's just a waste of time and it's annoying. And if anybody has a solution to that, let me know. But I was searching on Reddit for people that have similar issues, and there are people with issues that I have, but unfortunately there's no fix for that. So I'm not really sure what the way is around it, and the reason that sucks the most is, yeah, because it's going to take me longer to complete the series, but also because I wanted to start creating and recording clips for montages. I had some incredible triple and quad and 5-mans, split feeds even, unfortunately, but they weren't recorded because of that. Because of that issue, and it sucks, but I mean, whatever, I'll find a way through it. Like I said, it's a first world problem. But you can see here I got my 29 kills, and then I peek over this ledge and I get knocked off here, and then I think the Harrier killed that exact same guy. But you know, it wasn't the best gameplay, but finally got the state out of the way. And stay tuned, guys, because I'm gonna try to keep pumping these gameplays out. And like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you, and see you soon.